everyone. I'm Augusta Myers. Welcome. We are here now with the City of Albuquerque's City Clerk, Katie Duhigg. Thank you for joining us, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
We've got an election coming up, so let's jump right in and talk about that. What is the biggest thing that people need to know about this election? First of all, it's November 5th. Right. But what are some of the key things that I think voters want to know before they go out to the polls?
So yes, Election Day is this coming Tuesday, November 5th. And this election is going to be a little bit different from how elections in the city have been before.
How so?
So 2 years ago, the state legislature passed a law that creates combined elections. So in the past, you would go to the polls to vote on city issues and candidates in October, and then you would go again in February for APS, and then you'd go in March for something else.
Right.
And this new law changes that, so now you're voting for all these local entities all at once every other November.
Wow, that makes a nice one-stop shop for people, because a lot of times you want to vote in, say, an APS election or maybe a lesser-known election or one during a time of year where people aren't expecting one, and you forget.
Right, right. So now, basically, people can just remember you vote every November.
Yes. Nice. And is
Yeah.
this something we're going to see in the future, or could possibly see in the future, like these consolidated elections?
Yeah. So these have been adopted by most of the cities in New Mexico so far, and I think we can assume that this is our new normal. And it's great too because your voting locations are going to stay really consistent too. So you can go to the same place every time, every year in November, and be sure that you're not missing anything.
That does make it convenient. And this is a first ever, right?
This is.
For Albuquerque, certainly, but for New Mexico.
For the state as a whole, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Well, good.
Yeah.
That should make it easier for the average voter.
Right.
Now, one of the things that people sometimes overlook when they go to the polls is the double-sided ballot. Tell me about that.
Right. So with this consolidated election, the ballots might be a little bit longer than what folks have seen in city elections before. And so you really have to remember to turn your ballot over when you're done voting one side of it.
It sounds simple, but it's something that's an easy thing to overlook.
You know, if you don't know to do it, you get to the bottom and you're finished and you turn it in and
away you go.
You're good. But yeah, just be sure that when you're voting, always turn your ballot over, because there's going to be a whole other side of questions there that you don't want to miss having the opportunity to weigh in on.
And speaking of that, the double-sided ballot, very important to keep in mind. You were saying it's because of this consolidation now. There's a lot of things. Just give us an idea of what's going to be on the ballot this year.
So depending on where you live, you're probably you might see some candidate races. So people running for city council, for APS school board or the CNM board. There's also some soil and water districts who have candidate contests on this ballot. And if you don't live in one of those districts with a candidate contest, you might just be seeing your ballot questions. So those are going to be bond questions,
sure,
renewal of an existing transit tax, and then 2 propositions. And they both have to do with public financing. The first one, Proposition 1, is the city's public financing question. What it does is it updates our public financing process for the first time, really, since it was adopted by the voters 14 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a cleanup of that.
Okay.
The second Proposition 2, that was a voter initiative. So people went around and collected petition signatures to have this placed on the ballot. It creates something called Democracy Dollars, which is it's these $25 vouchers. It's a program that started in Seattle. And people could use these to donate to publicly financed candidates.
Okay, so a voucher, a cleanup or an update of the public financing, first in 14 years, and then a voter-driven, if you will, or citizen-driven initiative that's on the ballot to create a voucher system.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And then there will be, APS has a couple of bond and mill levy questions, and I think CNM has one question on there as well. So.
Wow. So quite a wide variety of things on the ballot.
Yeah.
Interesting. What about, give me an idea of like early voting, places that, like opportunities for people to vote.
So early voting is happening right now. It's going through Saturday. And there are 19 early voting locations around the city. If you look on the Bernalillo County Clerk's webpage, you'll get a list of those.
Good to know.
And those are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. One of the other brand new things this year is that for the first time during early voting, we have same-day registration.
Oh, wow. So people can just show up to an early voting location and register?
You can register, or you can update your registration. Maybe you've moved and you never changed it, but you want to be sure that you're voting in your district, so you want to vote in a candidate contest there or something.
Sure.
You can update your registration or register for the first time and then vote right then and there.
That's huge, because I think a lot of people think, well, I'd vote, but I didn't change my registration, and I moved, or I'm not registered. So this is great.
It is, yeah. And one important thing to remember is that this year, that same day registration is only during early voting.
Oh,
so if you want to take advantage of that, you need to do it by Saturday.
Right, not on election day.
Not on election day, right. There won't be any same-day registration on election day. In the future, there will be, just not this year.
Oh, okay, good. Easing people in, that's
right,
good.
right.
Well, and I'm sure election day is going to be kind of crazy at some places, so they probably don't want to throw that in there too, but it does make sense to try and do it during early vote.
Well, and what's great about election day is that the county's going to have 69 voting locations open on election day, all across the county. So I wouldn't anticipate that there's long lines or long waits.
Good.
I think it's probably likely to run very, very smoothly, and it'll be very convenient for folks to vote on election day
And
if they
talk
haven't
about
before.
convenience. I understand the city bus system, it will be free.
Right, yes. All buses will be free on election day, and all the election day polling locations are either right on a bus route or very, very close to one. So it should be very easy for folks to get to the polls using public transportation, and it'll be free.
Awesome. And it's 7 to 7 on election day, right? The voting schedule. And of course, if people want to find out more about the bus schedule, they can go on ABQ Ride's website, but also just call 311.
Call 311
for the city.
And and sorry, before you mentioned 7 to 7. While we don't anticipate that there's going to be long lines, as long as you are in line at 7 p.m., you can vote.
Okay. So they're not going to shut it down right at 7.
No.
Too late.
So if it's 10 till and you realize I haven't gotten a chance to, just run on over and.
Oh, good.
And as long as you're in line, you'll be allowed to vote.
That's good to know. And what if they want to learn more about what's on the ballot or anything to do with this election? Where do they go?
So they can go to the city's website. That's cabq.gov/yvote, WHYVOTE, all one word. And they'll get more information there. League of Women Voters also puts out
They're great.
They're fantastic, yeah. And they put out a great nonpartisan voter guide for all elections. And that's available online at their website as well.
They've been doing that for years, and we sure appreciate their efforts.
They're
Thank you
great,
so much. Is there anything else I'm leaving out about the vote and election day on November 5th?
No, I would just strongly encourage everyone in Albuquerque to get out to the polls, make your voices heard, and if anyone has any questions, they're welcome to contact the city clerk's office.
Great. Thank you, Katie.
Thank
you
you
for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.